So I have an update to a very important and tight race in Kentucky. This is the Democratic primary race for Senate between Amy McGrath, the Democratic establishment, Chuck Schumer, DSCC pick, versus Charles Booker, the progressive pick in that race. So McGrath had, as I'm going to show you here, over $40 million backing her. Got in the race early, got a lot of that corporate money, a lot of that big dollar money early on. And then Charles Booker was a sort of a latecomer to this race in the sense that he really began to excel late into, the past few weeks going into the primary race. So he had the momentum, but unfortunately it wasn't enough to overtake McGrath's cash, and also the fact that there was voter suppression on voting day, which benefited McGrath. So first here, the result, McGrath now at 45.09% to Charles Booker at 42.99%. And if you check around, McGrath has been declared the winner. So even though I'm seeing this number change slightly, it's not going to be enough based on the trends that everyone's seeing. So let me give you an example of that. Louisville here. So Jefferson County, where Louisville, Kentucky is. Charles Booker had about 80% of the vote there. But then when they began to count the absentee ballots, that's when McGrath made up a lot of that percentage. So because McGrath was in this race earlier, and because she had all that money going into it early, a lot of the vote for McGrath was early voting. So the people that voted earlier backed McGrath over Charles Booker because Charles Booker, a lot of them didn't even know about him as he was really surging in the last couple weeks. So because of that, McGrath won. And also because of this, Democracy Now! Headline, a new voting crisis. Kentucky closes 95% of polling places, leaving Louisville with just one. So the most populous place in Kentucky, Louisville. One polling place. To give you the actual numbers here, they reduced the polling places from 3,700 to just 170, a 95% reduction. And because Charles Booker was surging late in the race, and a lot of his support came at the end on voting day, those votes mattered most for his campaign. And because polling places were reduced to just 170, including just one for Louisville, where he had his highest support, that impacted the result, obviously. Now, let me show you what Charles Booker was fighting for. Just a few of the issues here: Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, universal basic income, expanding voting rights, relieving student debt, getting money out of politics. So in many cases, very specific plans, policy proposals that are supported by the more progressive politicians in Congress and progressive groups, more left-wing groups in general. So Charles Booker was running an unapologetically left-wing campaign, fighting for real issues that are going to help real people. Medicare for all as one example. How many millions of Americans have lost their health care now that was tied to their employer because they lost their job? That's because of the American system, the private for-profit health insurance industry. It is a completely crazy healthcare system. Yet still, we have to fight Democrats to support Medicare for all, to support guaranteeing everybody health care. Having healthcare free at the point of use, no out-of-pocket expenses. I mean, you look to any other country, look to where I live, Canada. We all pay into a single-payer system. We all benefit from it. I don't have to worry about, when I was working for other people, I didn't have to worry about leaving that job and losing my healthcare because healthcare is separated from your workplace. I mean, I really cannot communicate to you how completely stupid it is to have your healthcare tied to your employer. I mean, think of what that does. That enables, first of all, your employer to screw you, pay you less, but sure, maybe guarantee you some solid healthcare coverage, but that keeps you in that job. Maybe you don't like that job. Maybe you know you're getting screwed and not getting paid enough. But if you leave that job, you lose your doctor, lose your health care. It purely benefits corporations and it hurts people. And under a single payer system, you'd also have the wealthiest people in the country and your politicians on the same healthcare plan as you are. So how bad is it really going to get if the wealthiest people in the country have the same healthcare that you do? But no, Medicare for all, not something that McGrath supported. But let me show you here also how the polling looked between the two. So you see here Kentucky Senate general election polling. Mitch McConnell going up against McGrath. McConnell is a plus 20 against McGrath. Against Charles Booker, he's only a plus 14. Now, regardless, if Booker had won this race, this was still going to be a tough fight to try and defeat Mitch McConnell. But looking at the data here, even though Charles Booker was not as well known as McGrath was, Booker still doing better against McConnell than McGrath. As Kevin Goztola here tweets out, McGrath didn't defeat Charles Booker. The Democratic Party establishment defeated Booker. And McGrath will flail around until November trying to find her footing and lose to McConnell. And the DNC will be fine with that because McConnell is a good enemy for fundraising. Exactly. And let me show you the case in point. McGrath here. $40 million raised. Booker, not even $800,000. This is because McGrath took in a lot of money from Democratic establishment party connections. So corporate money, big donors. That's why she was able to bring in this kind of cash here. And I mean, just to remind you how close this race was, despite the fact that she raised $40 billion. $40 billion. $40 million. $40 billion, though, would have been pretty crazy. But $40 million, only within 3 points. I mean, still barely defeated Charles Booker, despite the fact that she raised almost $41 million, and Charles Booker almost $800,000. And where did that money come from for McGrath? Take a look. Out of state, 96% of it. 96% of her money raised from out of state. Charles Booker, who actually has some real support on the ground in Kentucky, 54% out of state, 45% in state. McGrath, in-state contributions, 3.6%. Charles Booker had actual support of the people in Kentucky, of groups there, of even the newspapers there, endorsements like Bernie Sanders, AOC. McGrath only won this race because everything, every little piece fell in her favor. The voter suppression and the cash being a major part of that. So the fact that she got in early, was backed by Chuck Schumer and the Democratic Party establishment, was able to raise this $41 million. And on voting day, the counties where Booker was strong in, or the main county, Jefferson County, that Booker was strong in, voter suppression in that county helped to bring McGrath to victory in this race.